Welcome back to Idaho Today. Today marks a hard day for Idaho. On this day, 4 University of Idaho students were killed at a home just off campus. And since then, it has captured attention around the world. We're joined today by Howard Blum, a journalist and author of the true crime book, When the Night Comes Falling, a Requiem for the Idaho Student Murders. Mr. Blum, it is so great to have you join us here. Greatly appreciate it.
Glad to speak with you.
You know, my first obvious question here is, you are a former journalist, but what drew you to investigate and write about this particular case? Because the book, this book actually that you wrote right here, is actually your own personal investigation into what unfolded in North Idaho. But why write this?
2 years ago, I was sitting around the Thanksgiving table with my family, and people started talking about this case. It just happened a week earlier. And the more they talked about it, the more perplexing it became. It became a real-life mystery. Why would someone go into this student house? Why were the 4 people killed? Why did he disappear? Whoever the suspect was, why did he disappear? There was no sign of him. It was a mystery. And I had been a New York Times investigative reporter. I had been nominated for 2 Pulitzers by the paper. And I thought, well, this is a mystery. I'd like to try to see what was happening, try to find out what the town was like. How did all the pieces in this story fit together? So I went out there for my first trip and began to just literally knock on doors.
Yeah, okay, so in the book too, though, you not only cover the murder itself, but you also take readers inside the lives of the victims and then the impact that their deaths have had on their families, on the community. Can you share a bit about the personal stories that you uncovered during your research?
Yes, I mean, the subtitle of the book is A Requiem for the Idaho Student Murders, and I wanted the book to be a fitting tribute to the lives that have been lost and what they could have become. One of the victims, Zanif, I remember, wore to her high school graduation, inside her high school graduation mortarboard, she had written, "For the lives I will change." And the fact that these students, young, beautiful, full of so much promise, will never get to change any more lives, that was very affecting to me as a parent. And I wanted to detail their journeys. I mean, here that ends is one of the fathers of the victim said, you send your daughter off to college and she comes back to you in a box. How can you deal with that? And as a father, I tried to make sense of all this and what was happening to the families. Unfortunately, this is ultimately a story all about victims. The parents, the survivors, even the people in the town become victims.
Yes. Okay, the trial is coming up for the summer of 2025. What do you think is at stake in this trial, both for the victims, families as mentioned, and for the broader public's understanding of justice in such a high-profile case like this?
Well, you have a trial like this to try to get some sense of justice. And for some of the people involved, unfortunately, it's become also vengeance. And I say unfortunately, but how can you blame them? You lose your child to someone, you want to make sure that something happens to them. And yet the trial, I believe, after all my investigation, that the suspect is guilty. That doesn't mean that he's going to be found guilty in a court of law. There are lots of issues. There's a DNA evidence. It's touch DNA, which can be impugned by various critics. There is cell phone triangulation, putting him in the area. That's pretty broad. It covers 13 miles. The case against him is not legally airtight. And there's still discovery information to be presented, and the governmental authorities seem to be holding back some of the information on the genetic investigative procedures that were used, and one wonders why they're holding them back. And if the defense ever gets this, it too could raise questions. So you could have a situation.
I was just going to say that there's just so much, right, to go through and to uncover in the case. I just want to say thank you so much, Howard Blum, former journalist, author who wrote When the Night Comes Falling, a Requiem for the Idaho Student Murders, your personal investigation into this story. Thank you so much, Mr. Blum. And a reminder to all of our viewers out there, KTVB has the coverage that you need now, and we'll continue to follow the trial and cover that next summer. Mr. Blum, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for talking with me. Bye.